Lace 'em up, let's start the show. We're digging in with Trip. 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 We're digging in with Trip today. Yeah.
What a special, exciting edition of Digging In coming up in just a moment. I remember the first time I saw hockey. I was at a local rink in Grosse Pointe, Michigan, and I asked my parents if I could play, and they said, "No, you got to take 2 years of figure skating first." I had no idea at that point, which I did. I had no idea at that point that I would become friends with an American hero, arguably the greatest figure skater in the history of the greatest country on planet Earth, Kristi Yamaguchi. Roddy Brindamore said to me after our last episode with the great one, Wayne Gretzky, it's all downhill from here, so you better make a good selection as to who it's going to be. And I texted him, I said, well, what do you think about, we both call her Yama? And he goes, A++++. So, as RB gives the seal of approval, we're about to dig in with Kristi. I remind you to rate and review our show on all audio platforms and YouTube. Continue to check out our merch line at digintrip.com. And tremendous gratitude to our presenting sponsor, the elite of all elite trailer manufacturers and truck bodies in North America, Great Dane Trailers. Family owned, family feel, the Crown family going back to the year 1900. Why are they the best? When you see that beautiful Great Dane decal on the lower left-hand corner when you're driving down the highway, 10 and 2 on the wheel. Engineering support, second to none. A variety of innovative, ever-changing trailers. You look at what they did in the early stages in particular to get the necessary freight to all the different parts of our country and in North America on time. GreatDane.com. Nobody better. Their engineering support is off the charts, all world. And I'm just scratching the surface of why they are premier and everybody else is in their wake. So without further ado, let's now dig in with the gold medalist of all gold medalists, Kristi Yamaguchi. Listen, I have on my red, white, and blue one of the countless reasons, but tell you right up there near the top that I'm so proud to be an American. I had no idea we'd become friends. To dig in with my dear friend, gold medal winning figure skater, Kristi Yamaguchi. Kristi, we met when you were in here, Raleigh. How are you? First of all, how are you? And we'll get right to the meat of this thing.
Oh, well, that's so sweet of you to say. But yes, I'm doing great. Can't complain. It's been a crazy year for everyone. And, we're seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. And that's a good thing. So yeah, doing pretty good. And you look great.
Well, the Zoom can be deceiving. Yama, when we became friends, I never knew what the setting would be to be able to ask you this, but you're the very definition of shovel in hand, digging in. So I usually start every show by asking for what your definition is, whether it be on the ice, whether it be your foundation, whether it be anything else. As a wonderful mom, how do you define digging in?
Well, digging in is just that. It's just, getting through the grind, like going through all of it that you need to do in order to accomplish what you want, and really not giving up. It's all about perseverance, right? You're digging in and you're going for it, and nothing's going to stop you. So that's kind of what I think of when I hear digging in.
Just set the tone the way that you did the ends of the earth at Albertville. I have been lucky enough, I think in both Raleigh and San Jose, to meet your mom and dad. Tell me about your childhood. How many brothers and sisters do you have? Tell me about being a kid out in California.
Yeah, well, a California girl here and have an older sister, Lori, a younger brother, Brett. And so my parents were really busy, 3 kids, all different activities. My brother played basketball, my sister involved with school and cheerleading and everything, baton twirling. So yeah, I have no idea how they did it with 3 kids and, with the dedication they did. But it was fun. We grew up in a pretty quiet little town, Fremont, and the Bay Area. I think we're very fortunate that is very diverse. So we had, um, pretty normal California growing up kind of experience. I don't know. I mean, I skated a lot. I remember that, but other than that, I don't feel like it was totally extraordinary.
Am I correct? Is your dad, was he a dentist?
Yes, he still is. Believe it or not, he is 83 and he is still practicing.
All world. Can you tell him if I'm ever out there visiting you and Brett Hedekin and the girls, because these teeth I bit off more than I could chew in a fight when I was in the minors. And a heavyweight Yama knocked, these are all fake. And they have a tendency when I bite into something hard to come off. So I might ask your dad, Dr. Yamaguchi, to reattach at some point.
There you go, for sure. Absolutely.
Did you, I know, now you did ballet. What sports did you play? Were you a ballet dancer? And then when did you hit the ice for the first time?
I did do ballet quite a few years. I actually started ballet before I started skating, probably more when I was like 4 years old. And I really liked ballet and did it throughout even most of my skating career, competitive career. And I think that just really helps as a performer. Anytime, you're performing the music, I think that base of knowledge of body movement that you learn from ballet is really key and important. But but when I was little, I tried lots of different things, soccer, gymnastics, whatever, baton twirling like my sister, but none of it was, it was all kind of like, nah, I don't like this. But there was something magical about skating that just kind of was like, okay, well, that's it.
Do you remember one distinct, tangible impression that skating gave you that you said, ooh, this has got mojo?
Well, I loved watching it. I loved seeing ice shows and, the magic of the performances and everything. But, when I tried it for the first time, I was about 6 years old, and just the freedom that you feel on the ice. I mean, at that time, my mom was kind of still holding me up and skating around with me, but I just remember like wanting to go faster and faster, and just kind of that freedom of the wind blowing in your face and everything was so fun, and I just wanted to do that again and again. So yeah, and I think even as you progress through the sport, you still have that feeling, and it's probably the one thing that I miss about not getting back on the ice now that I'm kind of old and retired.
You look unbelievable, and you're having a heck of a hair day, for the record. You know that. Hey, listen, that's flat out facts, Yama. My mom and dad made me take 2 years of figure skating before they let me play hockey. We're not going to divulge into that, okay? But did ballet help you at all when you started to focus on skating and building that foundation?
Yes, definitely. I mean, I think, in skating, you're performing the music. So you're essentially interpreting music, and, body positions, mean a lot in skating, and your balance. So all of that, which is kind of the base you learn in ballet, certainly transfers onto the ice. So anything about, you could tell someone to hold their arm up and wave it over the head, but it's not going to look the same as maybe someone who has some dance experience and knows like, okay, I'm not going to move my shoulder to my ear to raise my hand up over the head and look awkward. So yeah, I think ballet for sure was a huge asset. And, I don't know, as I progressed, they did do like ballet specific for skaters, which was helpful because the lower body is a little bit, a lot different in skating. Cause, obviously, being on the ice, your knees are bent and your balance is kind of a little more forward than in dance. You're very, straight up and down. So that's a little different, but certainly for the upper body, it helps.
Was there one particular skater, male or female, that, when you fell in love with the sport that you particularly looked up to?
Ooh, there were a lot, but back in the late 70s, early 80s, it was Dorothy Hamill. For you older people out there listening, obviously icon, won the Olympics in 1976. And so, that I started skating a few years after that, and she was still America's sweetheart. So it was, fun to try to emulate her, and I never got the haircut, couldn't go that far, but I always wanted to have a red dress like her, and try to skate a little bit like her as well.
Quickly digressing, speaking of the red dress, do you know that your dear friend Hurricanes coach Rod Brindamore told me that you gave his daughter, just as one daughter, Briley, you gave her one of your dresses from competition. Roddy just told me that.
Oh,
aside from saying don't screw.
I remember that.
Aside from saying don't screw this up with Kristi.
Oh, Roddy, I love him so much. But yeah, that's so funny that he remembers that, man. Oh,
yeah,
so
that's pretty cool. Okay, so was there a stretch or any pivotal moment that you said, "Hey, I've got a real shot at this"? At one point, Kristi, you and tell me if I'm wrong, you went and dug in Edmonton to take your skating to the next level. Is that right?
Yes. So that was probably about the time. I mean, I junior high school age, around 13, 14, 15 is when I really started to see a little bit more potential, and I had my first international competition at 13. So that was eye-opening, and I think that enforced my desire and my dedication to keep going and see how far it could go. So that's probably when it got a lot more serious, and more time involved with the training. And then right after high school graduation, like literally the day after, I went up to Edmonton, Canada. My coach, who I had been with since I was 9 years old, married a Canadian. She met him at the 1988 Calgary Olympics, and they fell in love. And basically in 1989, they got married. So I followed her up there, and it was an incredible training mecca for skating at the time. Like literally the top 3 Canadian men were training there. The national champions from Switzerland, Norway, Denmark, and Australia were training there. And a lot of the other top skaters in Canada as well. So, it was a really incredible atmosphere to jump into. And I feel so fortunate because it wasn't like, oh, I'm going to, up to Canada, I don't know anyone, and training isolated on my own. It really was such a rich environment that, we all were in the same boat and had the same goals. And I think it was the best situation I could have ever fallen into.
The tie-in, because again, he doesn't influence me as much as he thinks he does, Roddy B. But he said, because the last guest was, speaking of Edmonton, Wayne Gretzky. And he said, Tripp, you got nowhere to go but downhill. You better make a good choice who you go with next. And I waited a few days and I texted him, Yama, ? And he said, 10 on a 10 scale. Okay.
Aww.
So did you ever meet, speaking of Edmonton, Wayne was moving down south to LA around that time. Did you ever meet the great one, my last guest in Edmonton?
I have met Wayne, and yeah, it was kind of a little ironic. It was like, okay, there goes Wayne, and I move up to Edmonton, and the Oilers were just like, they just ruled the city when I moved up there, and I didn't know anything about hockey really at that point. But I did get to meet Wayne because his agent at the time, Mike Barnett, was also representing Kurt Browning, the figure skater, national world and national champion in Canada. So yeah, so through Mike Barnett and his associate, we got to see Wayne every now and then, and Wally too. So it was just like, woo, pretty cool.
Any particular moments you remember, both salt of the earth people like you, Yamarama?
Just incredible. I mean, I think you don't even realize how, this man is so iconic. He is just a legend, greatest of all time. And, he'll sit down and talk to everyone like they're all the same. And, it just interested in who they are. And I think it was, such, and a lot of those guys actually, some of the other Oilers, Mark Messier, same thing. They just were so supportive of everyone else. And I think their culture of leadership and, how they exuded themselves were just incredible role models. I think not just for athletes, but, anyone who's at the top of their game.
Very interesting. You mentioned Kurt Browning. I know that you flourished in pairs figure skating. And, bear with me, Kristi, if I ask the stupid question. I've always thought the only stupid one's the one not asked. As you start to trend towards 92 in Albertville, did pairs figure skating help you in individual competition? And if so, why?
Yeah, no, perfectly good question. And, Rudy and I were a pair team for 7 years, really from the time I was 13 until, almost 20. Or no, actually, maybe we started earlier. He was 13. So, yeah, we had a very long partnership. And I think we grew together as skaters, and we learned a lot in the skating world together. And so I definitely feel that experience made me a better competitor, all around skater. It got too difficult to compete in both events simultaneously. But, I think having competed at that high level in 2 events and then focusing in on one, it just, I wouldn't say it was like all of a sudden so easy because, there's still a lot of pressure, but I think can you hear that singing in the background?
Absolutely. I'm saying, I think they're choreographing a song that, you said the importance of music in skating competitions.
Yeah, I could try to close the door a little bit more.
Oh no, I think it just adds chorus to the interview. It's like the long program.
Yeah, so my daughter, we are still in distance learning here in California. So my daughter's choir class on the dot just started, and they're going through their warm-ups right now. So this is what we hear on a daily basis during choir.
I've always wanted to sing like, the Yamaguchi household and then Brett Hedican, because, your husband can certainly sing with the best of them. I want to since I met you and Brett, I never knew it would be on this platform. I wanted to ask you because you mentioned pressure. This is pressure. Let's take it from the top. When you show up at Albertville, what do you remember about the opening ceremonies? Did you have a roommate? How were you situated in the village?
Oh, yeah. So that is like the best part of the Olympics, right? It's just being part of the whole Olympic experience. And so I got to the Olympic Village. At that games, there were actually 3 different villages because it was just spread out throughout the Alps, the French Alps. And we were in a village called Bride-Laban, which in the summertime apparently is like a weight loss spa, which is how we attributed why the food was so horrible for us. But my roommate in the village, yeah, it was terrible. My roommate in the village was Nancy Kerrigan. So the two of us were roomies. We had actually roomed together many times before, like at competitions and at shows, tours. So, really good friends. So it was fun to be able to experience that with her and, and then meet other athletes. So we had a lot of fun just kind of meeting, the other skiers and bobsledders and speed skaters. That was probably the most exciting thing, was walking into the athletes dining hall and kind of looking around and looking, it was like high school again, like, oh no, what table should I go to and sit at? And I saw Bonnie Blair and Dan Jansen, and, they're two huge idols of mine. So I was like, and I didn't sit with them, but I kind of was like intrigued to see them there.
Wow. Very cool. Your buddy Wayne Gretzky mentioned when he was on the show that in the Olympic in Nagano in 98, he said that, in the food court, cuisine from all over the world, everybody was afraid to go to McDonald's. And Wayne said, hey, I ain't afraid. So he got a Big Mac, fries, and I think he told me he got a Diet Coke. I don't know why he didn't go all in and just get a Coke.
Oh, funny. That's great.
So what's that like? You and Nancy Kerrigan, roommates, you're both dreaming of competing for the gold medal. It's almost like two goaltenders fighting for the net in hockey. I mean, how does that go, that you compete but support each other? Because, as you mentioned, great friends.
Yeah, I don't know. We had known each other since I was 14, was the first time I met Nancy. And so we had been competitors against each other for years and years. And, it developed into a friendship. And, there was competitiveness there for sure. And I think we pushed each other. And, we always knew what we were doing and planning for the competition. But I think there was just a mutual respect there. I mean, we had our own work ethics, and I think, we were different types of skaters. So, and our families were close too. Actually, our parents got to know each other through the years as well. So, so I don't know. I mean, there was a level of competitiveness, but I think yet we, being an individual sport, we stayed in our own lanes and knew that, okay, we have to go out there and land our jumps first before we could worry about, each other so much.
Amen. And by the way, for those watching on Zoom, as we're going to now roll into the long program, I don't know if you were rocking the solid nails that night that you are right now. I just caught a glimpse. Okay, so Kristi.
Yeah.
In the Stanley Cup playoffs, you have 7 games if you need it to win 4. If you don't win it one year, if you have a good career, you're going to get several cracks. It took your husband 3 Stanley Cup finals before he was able to lift the Stanley Cup. This comes once every 4 years, and you have the skill, the pressure. I think you could argue it's the most magnified, pressurized individual Olympic sport there is. What do you remember? Did you sleep okay the night before the long program?
I actually did. I think, back when I competed, there was usually such dread the night before that it was kind of like, okay, I just go to sleep. I can't even think about this anymore. And, as I always used a lot of imagery before the night before I competed. So I would lay in bed and I would imagine myself walking through the program exactly how I wanted it done. And if there was some little mistake, I would go back and start over and go through the program again in my mind. So after doing that, I think it just kind of exhausted me and I'd fall asleep. So yeah, so like very much like the NHL, the day of competition, I would also then take probably at least another 2-hour nap after the warm-up session in the morning or late morning. So Yeah, I never had trouble sleeping during competitions, but afterwards, if I was either mad at myself or really happy with the results, then maybe I would be up.
And you did, I mean, France is 6 hours later than the East
Mm.
Coast in the United States. So the long program, was it at night, Albertville time?
I think it was like early evening, but it was early evening in Albertville. Yeah, I mean, because I do remember my parents had like this little apartment they had rented across the street from the arena, and I had the practice in the morning, and I went back there and took my nap, and then my mom actually got to prepare my usual pre-competition meal, which was literally just pasta marinara. And then I walked back, over to the arena for, the time of my event. So yeah, it was probably early evening. And back then there's like no internet yet, no social media. So I remember it was live, right? Or not live, but they told people, I remember my family had to like turn their radios on and off so they weren't spoiled, because the footage wouldn't be shown until like the next day. So if you wanted to wait and see it, then you had to, avoid the spoilers on the radio.
So cool. Now, you several minutes ago, you mentioned, going back to ballet, the central role of music. What tune or tunes did you have for your long program en route to the gold?
So I had two programs in Albertville. The first one was the short program, or back then it was called the original program, and that was to the Blue Danube. It's a waltz, and it was kind of, the story behind it was that it was my debutante ball moment. So it just really had that inspiration and feel to it. And then the long program, which is also considered the free skate, was to Malagueña. So a very powerful Spanish piece of music. And I had actually, that was the third or fourth time I had actually used that piece of music. And I think because I had such a connection to it, that's why we chose it for Olympic year.
This question I've wanted to ask you for 15 years, since we became friends, and you had me at hello. Here it is. The skill, the rarity of being able to challenge for a figure skating gold. Such a slight, small margin for error, edge work, your jumps, etc. I can't think, Kristi, of dealing with pressure to the infinite degree. And if there's any tense DNA going through your core, you're screwed. So how did you channel the pressure, and what advice would you give to any athlete or any boy, girl, man, woman in life about channeling that pressure positively?
Yes, I mean, there were definitely terrifying moments, and I can say before both of my routines, I almost was like, okay, I can't go out there. I can't do that. I don't want to. This is just, I think my body, I can't even feel it. But I think that's when you dig in. Those are the moments, right? That you dig in, and I had to keep reminding myself, like, look, you are ready. You have put the preparation in, and it's all about that positive self-talk. And I think you find your strength and your confidence when you prepare well. It's not nothing comes instant, right? Anything worth it these days doesn't come instantly. It's the work that you put in before. And I knew I had done that, and I had to keep reminding myself, like, okay, you're ready, you're prepared, you've done this hundreds of times perfectly, or maybe not perfectly, but without major mistakes. So just, turn off the brain a little bit and let your body do what it's trained. And I know that only maybe works in athletics, not maybe in the business world to turn off the brain. But, I think when you've put the time and effort and the work in, um, let that give you the confidence to go out there and go for it. Because at that point, it's do or die, right? And you got to just grab that chance and the opportunity when it's there.
That's the coolest answer I think I've gotten in just about a year of digging in. Always wanted to. Wow, I had tears in my eyes because of how much I love you. And anyway,
Aww.
wow, that's a wow. That is a flat out wow. What do you remember? You faced your fear. You ran with it like you were Usain Bolt in the Summer Olympics. What do you remember? Your immediate reaction when you found out that you were the gold medalist?
I remember screaming very loudly with my coach, and funny, the way we found out was backstage, sitting with Nancy Kerrigan and her two coaches, and the TV always gets the official results first. So nothing. The last skater who competed, the scores were up, and we asked the cameraman backstage, like, are the official results up yet? And he's like, well, hold on. And he had become a good friend. He was at all the skating competitions. So he calls into his producer, onto the phone. He's like, hey, Dusty, what are the official results? And he holds his earpiece out to the five of us who were, or six of us who were around. And we could hear the producer say, Yamaguchi, Ito, Kerrigan, but don't tell them. And all of a sudden we're just like, all six of us were like screaming and, having our little emotional meltdowns. And I'm sure Dusty, the producer, was just like, what just happened? Because of course they didn't get our reactions on camera. But it was a very cool moment. And I think there's just so much, almost a lot of relief, but obviously gratitude, and just like I thought about so many of the people that had done so much for me to get to that point. And and I'm happy for my coach too, because we were really a team going into there, and she had done so much.
You had been with her at that point because she got married in Edmonton. You'd been with her for over a decade at that point, right? How long?
Oh, yeah. So like 11 years. Yeah.
What made her a great coach?
I would describe her as maybe you guys would say in the NHL is just old school, and she was just no nonsense. And I think, there was the way she coached back then. I don't think you would ever be allowed to coach these days, but she was very disciplined. She had specific expectations, and if you didn't meet those or follow her guidelines, then either she dropped you as a student or you paid the price in your lessons by getting yelled at. So she was an incredible technician. I think that's what held up under pressure so much, was that she had a very clean, pure technique that she looked at for her skaters that would hold up, under pressure. And she knew you had to be mentally tough, right, in this sport. And she taught that every day in practice. She never let us off the hook. She would be tough on us because she knew, and she would tell us, she's like, hey, if you kids survive me every day, skating in front of those judges will be a piece of cake. So, she knew what she was doing in order to get us mentally ready. And it wasn't always easy or fun, but it worked.
Do you? It's I have on Utah. I have my red, white, and blue so proudly hat on. You, as the United States national anthem was playing on the podium, what was going through your mind and your heart?
I was I had found my family in the audience. I still hadn't seen them yet, but, I just wanted to share that moment with them. My mom and dad and my sister were actually there in Albertville. So, it was just, it was a whole family thing, right? I mean, so many people sacrificed a lot to get me there. So sharing that moment with them. And then I also saw like images of Bonnie Blair and Brian Boitano, because they were big role models for me. And I remember their Olympic moment standing on the podium. And, I kind of at one point looked at Nancy and Nancy Kerrigan, because she won the bronze. And we were like, is this really happening? like pinch us, like, don't wake us up. So yeah, pretty surreal.
Sure is. Do you, because my college captain, Ted Drury, I was a senior in high school when you won, but he was playing with Brett on the U.S. team.
I remember that.
And then he came back. Then he came back to Harvard. He was my captain. Then he went to Lillehammer in '94. Do you think you ended up turning pro? I mean, you win the gold. Would you have, had you not won the gold, Kristi, do you think you would have appeared in Scandinavia and Lillehammer?
Yes, probably. And I think that's a little bit of what I used in my mind to take the pressure off in Albertville, was that, oh, hey, I have the amazing opportunity to only wait 2 years for the next Winter Games. So if things don't quite work out here, and, everyone at that year was talking about Tanya Harding and Midori Ito, who were landing the triple axel, and how I didn't have that. So I was at a disadvantage. So I'm like, well, you know what? I could just do what I can. And if it doesn't work out, I have Lillehammer 2 years away. So yes, to answer your question, if things hadn't worked out, I would have probably been in Lillehammer.
Did you met so many people? You said it was like high school in Albertville. At what point what was the first impression with your future husband, Brett Roy Hobbs Hedekin?
Well, it's funny because the first time I met him, I was at the opening ceremonies waiting to march in with the entire U.S. team. And, they station you out there for 3-4 hours before you're ready to march in. And so Nancy and I were like, hey, let's go around and meet some of the other athletes. And being from Boston, she knew a bunch of those guys. She knew Ted Drury and some of the other players, Donato and all that. So we went over there and she said hi to them. And we met some of the other players, which Brett was one of them. And we were taking pictures and then, met some of the other athletes too. So that was kind of our first introduction. And then when the U.S. team played in the bronze medal game, that was literally one of the only events that happened after the ladies' competition. So it was the only other event I really got to go and watch. So the day after I won, we went to go watch the bronze medal game. And unfortunately, the U.S. lost. But, I was there with a bunch of other U.S. athletes, and we were cheering them on and met them, cheered them on as they were getting to their bus after the game. And I think someone actually gave me one of the sticks from the game. They're probably like, oh, here, have the stick. And so, I saw Brett again, but, nothing clicked then. We were, just athletes at the Olympics. And it wasn't really until a few years later where our paths crossed again. But that connection of being on the same Olympic team is kind of what spurred on, I guess, interest.
Yeah, well, as you're having an extraordinarily great hair days, that was the Head and Shoulders first impression. Okay, Kristi, for this portion again, YouTube, I never wear this thing, okay, because I always humorously say they couldn't have worn it without me.
Oh, there it is. No, for sure. I mean, I miss hearing, I try to watch the Hurricanes every now and then, but I miss hearing you. So yeah. And I have to tell one story about you before.
Okay.
We
got a couple. Yeah.
Yeah, we got a couple, but this is a good one. And I'm not sure you're maybe even aware of it. So I have our second daughter, Emma, in the hospital. And she was born about, 1:30 in the morning. And later that day, you guys have a game. So Brett's at the game, and you announce like, "Oh, congratulations to Brett Hedican and his wife Kristi for the arrival of their second daughter, Emma." And I remember sitting in the hospital going like, "Oh, is that her name?" We had discussed Emma and Haley as her name, and those were kind of the options out there. And when you're like, "Congratulations on their daughter Emma," and I was just like, "Oh, okay, I guess that's her name." I'm like, that must be the one Brett liked the best, so we'll go with it. So I feel like we have this connection with Emma that you helped name her.
Unbelievable. I had no clue. And of course, maybe it was telepathic or flat out selfish on my part because my real name's Emmett. So I figured, Emma, oh yeah.
It's a
I
good
had
one.
no idea. My gosh, I was a lot for you to handle, Kristi, once we became friends because here I am. It's Emma, it's Haley. I'm pushing Emma. Then I asked you to set me up with Michelle Kwan, which you did. Like this whole, you really have always gone to bat for me. There were a couple of situations on Dancing with the Stars. You were Cupid for me. My mom, my mom, by the way, told me again, like Rod did, more than any other episode. She said, "You're digging in with Kristi Yamaguchi." Now, she said, "I don't watch or listen to all your episodes. This one, I ain't missing." My mom, Marilyn Tracy.
Hi, Mom. Hope you're doing well.
Got a few more things. Brett, perhaps his most significant memory had been to the finals with Vancouver against the Rangers, 94. 2002 against the Detroit Red Wings. They win in 2006. And he said to me, "I will never forget locking eyes with my beautiful, wonderful wife, Kristi, when she walked on the ice." It's a different role for you. You've gone from gold medal, figure skating American hero to, supporting your husband with your girls. What do you remember about that when he had achieved his dream?
Yes, I remember that moment as well. And I think there was just so much pride. And I just knew how, he's just so dedicated as an athlete. And I think, that's how we gelled so well together. It's like just me understanding what he was going through, what all of you were going through, the whole team. And he just seeing him accomplish what he had through the long career he had, and finally, achieving that with his team was so special. And I was just so happy for him because, I remember what I was thinking. I was just like, can you believe it? You did it. And it was probably that ugly cry face, but, it was just like, wow, I'm so proud and happy and elated for you because, this moment so well deserved. And, I think we were all so excited to be able to be there and to share in that moment. It was crazy, right? Everyone went onto the ice when we weren't supposed to. Oops.
Trendsetters in Caniacville. And Brett is on the board. What year did you start your Always Dream Foundation? You have done life-changing. You want to talk about shovel in hand. Tell me about it, the conceptualization, how things are going, how people can get involved to enrich kids that don't have the opportunities that we've been afforded.
Absolutely. So it's called Always Dream, and I established it back in 1996. So believe it or not, we're celebrating our 25th anniversary this year. Hard to believe. But we are all about embracing the hopes and dreams of disadvantaged children. And, like you just said it right there perfectly. I've been given such fortunate opportunities and support from my family, from the community to go after my dreams. And, there are so many kids out there who don't have the opportunities right in front of them. So doing whatever I can to help kids have that opportunity to go after their dreams. And the last 10 years, we've really focused in on early childhood literacy. So providing a reading program to low-income kindergarten students and families. And, we didn't want to just be like another literacy organization that hands out books, but to really see and try to, create change in their home. And so we provide books via a tablet, ebooks, so they have access to hundreds. And we provide family engagement support. So text messages 3 times a week, a book coach who's available to the families, emails, and constant communication to really empower the families, the parents, to be involved with their child's learning at home. And it's a tough one. I think every family has different situations that they're dealing with, but we tell our families, if you could 5 minutes at breakfast or 5 minutes before you go to bed to just spend time reading to your child, it will make a huge difference in their success at school and eventually in life. So yeah, I mean, our goal is to just really close that opportunity gap, the digital divide, and get as many tools and books into the hands of kids that we can.
Phenomenal. And phenomenal. Education is such the centerpiece and key to your dreams. Mm-hmm. And I will tell you, I want to get serious for a second. Education is also the centerpiece to, I think, growing as a country, the greatest country in the world. And when I think about you, I think my friend, Kristi Yamaguchi Hedekin, an American hero. So, and I want you, there's a lot to this, obviously, because we didn't get into it, but, your great-grandparents immigrating to America. Your grandmother, I believe, had your mom in an internment camp as your grandfather was fighting on the European front in World War II. The great American hero that you are, what are the things we need to do as a country to make all of our phenomenal Asian Americans feel as inclusive as we dream that is the American dream?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot right now. The Asian American community is really hurting, and I think there's a lot of fear that has been brought up just recently, the last year, with the attacks that have been happening. And it's baffling, but I think at the same time not surprising, because I think the Asian American story has not been told as probably as extensively as it should have been. And, we know that the more educated we are about people's experiences, the more tolerance, the more understanding there is. So I think you hit it right on the nose, that education is the key to really breaking down walls and barriers and differences. So, hopefully, the one thing that maybe comes out of what's been happening lately is that, yeah, the understanding and the stories are told, because, hopefully we need to get past this and turn the corner. Because, I mean, Asian Americans are a huge piece of the fabric of what is America. And, yeah, so it's sad to see. And I think, we're trying to raise as much awareness as possible of what's going on and how to change it. I think still working on the change piece.
One follow-up because, I dated not an American, but a French Vietnamese woman for 5.5 years. And, it was really eye-opening for me because I think where we're at right now in the United States is we think of Asians as all Asians. I mean, whether you're Japanese American, whether you're Korean American, Chinese American, Vietnamese American, Thai American, I now I can look and all these wonderful cultures, but I can tell the difference. And truthfully, and it was eye-popping, eye-opening, before that experience of 5.5 years for me. There's a long ways to go, Kristi. And I just think education is the most important part, the most important piece of the puzzle.
Yes, definitely. And I think you're so right. There's just, every Asian culture is so different and so rich that it's so great to be able to learn a little bit more in the difference in all of that. And, that's hopefully what will bring about more, tolerance, and not, maybe we don't want tolerance, but just, more peace and everything within all the communities together.
Well, I know that you have enriched my life, and time is still on our side in a colossal way. I can't thank you enough for digging in, Kristi, and my life is so much better because I can call you a friend. And I hope to see you soon. I hope to get myself out there to the left coast and have some of that pre-Olympic gold medal marinara. I like a little spice in the banana tart that I always, that you promised that you make for me at some point. You've been promising that for decades.
Oh boy. Yeah, I better get on that. No, I feeling is so mutual, Trip. I think we, experienced a lot together and some great times, and your friendship has been so amazing. And, also your friendship with Brett, I think, he just adores you and looks to you as someone that is very high on his list. So, I'm so glad we had this chance to catch up and chat and miss you so much.
Miss you too. Take care. Stay safe. I will see you soon. Yamarama.
All right. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you so much, Kristi. That was awesome. Awesome. She is, for those of you watching on YouTube, wearing my United States Dig In red, white, and blue trucker. She is everything that is true greatness about the Stars and Stripes in the United States of America. Thanks for doing it, Kristi. I enjoyed the absolute heck out of it. And thank you to our presenting sponsor, Great Dane Trailers, the numero uno, boardwalk, park place in the trailer industry and in truck bodies. Family owned, been around since 1900, so 121 years and counting. Engineering expertise that always keeps them ahead of the technological trailers built properly, trailers built in elite fashion level. They just check every box. The decal there, the best looking decal too, that beautiful Great Dane. So if you're driving down the highway, I always look in the lower left-hand corner because that's where you can tell who the manufacturer is. If you see that Great Dane dog, you know it's the best trailer in the business. GreatDane.com. Please, again, I ask you politely and maybe even implore you to rate and review our show with honesty, good or bad, on every audio platform as well as on YouTube. Maybe you want this USA red, white, and blue trucker in honor of one of our American heroes, Kristi Yamaguchi. Digintrip.com for all of our merch. And until the next time, I hope you are all shovels in hand. If not, grab the shovel and make today the day that you start. We have released this episode on Friday because that is the day of the week that Kristi delivered the goods. She faced her fears. That was awesome, talking about facing her fears, channeled her pressure, to win gold in Albertville, France. Until the next time, stay safe, dig in, and I will talk to you and see you soon.
We're digging in with Trip today, yeah. Today, yeah. Today, yeah. Today.